How can you dare teach a man to read until you've taught him everything else first? Georgos Seferis. Think about this. Traditionally, the pyramid of education has always placed literacy at its base. From as early as 6 years old, or sometimes even younger, children are funneled into the world of letters and words. The ABCs become their gateway to knowledge, and reading becomes the cornerstone of their learning journey. But what if we've been doing it wrong? What if the famous Greek poet Georgos Seferis is onto something when he challenges this model? What if instead of starting with literacy, we flipped the script entirely? What if we delayed teaching children how to read until they were 12, or maybe even older? The reasoning behind this idea isn't just theoretical, it's practical. Learning to read might not be as foundational as we assume if a child lacks the contextual framework needed to make sense of what they're reading. Without that foundation, new information risks becoming meaningless noise. Let me share an example from my own life to illustrate this point. One of the subjects I found least engaging in school was religious studies, specifically lessons on the Bible. Back then, these classes felt like a chore. I memorized verses without any real understanding or connection to the material. It didn't resonate with me, it seemed irrelevant. Fast forward to my mid-20s though, and everything changed. Suddenly, metaphysical and spiritual questions began to captivate me. Those same biblical teachings that once bored me now held profound meaning. Why? Because by then I had developed a personal context, a deeper understanding of life, existence, and what some might call the divine. When I read phrases like "the kingdom of God is within you," or "thou shalt not commit adultery," they finally clicked. As a child, I lacked both the lived experience and the mental framework to truly grasp those ideas. This raises an important question. What was the purpose of forcing me to study something years before I could genuinely connect with it? Wasn't that effort, a significant investment of time, energy, and resources, ultimately wasted? Wouldn't it have been better to wait until I was naturally curious and ready to explore those topics? If you pause to reflect on your own educational journey, you'll likely notice a similar pattern. Chances are, the subjects that sparked passion and excitement for you weren't the result of being forced to learn them. Instead, they emerged organically, driven by your innate curiosity. This realization points to a fundamental truth about education. True learning cannot be imposed, it must unfold naturally. Georgos Seferis's provocative question invites us to rethink the structure and priorities of our educational system. His challenge shouldn't be misunderstood as a dismissal of literacy itself. After all, as a poet, Seferis dedicated his life to language and the written word. Rather, he encourages us to reconsider the sequence and substance of education. Before diving into content, shouldn't we focus on building context? True engagement with learning happens when students have a personal stake in the material, when they're motivated by genuine curiosity. And let's face it, most 6-year-olds aren't naturally eager to sit down and practice phonics or grammar drills. Instead, they're wired to explore the world through play, discovery, and interaction. Imagine a different approach, one where children spend their early years immersed in hands-on experiences, connecting deeply with the real world around them. Instead of confining them to desks and textbooks, imagine sending them outside to observe nature, create art, build things, and engage with others. By fostering curiosity and allowing them to develop a rich internal context, we set the stage for meaningful learning later on. In other words, develop context before content. A well-rounded understanding of the world and our place within it should come first. And that's something humans are naturally equipped to cultivate through curiosity. Curiosity is perhaps the single most powerful tool for learning. It requires no coercion, no willpower. In fact, research supports this idea. A 2014 study conducted at the University of California revealed that curiosity doesn't just make our brains more receptive to learning, it also makes the process far more enjoyable and rewarding. Allowing children to follow their natural curiosity transforms education into something akin to visiting an amusement park. Imagine going to school feeling the same excitement as stepping into a world of wonder and discovery. Unfortunately, the current system often stifles this natural curiosity. Our reliance on reward and punishment mechanisms may have suited societies that valued conformity and obedience above all else. But that's no longer the reality we live in. We don't need human beings who simply follow instructions or regurgitate information. With technological advancements accelerating rapidly, especially in fields like artificial intelligence, we must completely reimagine what it means to be educated. Consider this: in a world where AI handles writing, reading, translation, and countless other tasks for us, what role does traditional literacy play? Today's technology allows us to communicate across languages effortlessly, navigate foreign countries without speaking a word of the local tongue, and outsource nearly every cognitive task to machines. If AI takes care of the mechanics of language, what remains uniquely human? The answer lies in preserving the spark of wonder, the insatiable curiosity that drives innovation, creativity, and empathy. Keeping that flame alive may prove to be humanity's greatest challenge over the next few decades, and it starts in childhood. Every child is born curious, an innate explorer brimming with questions, but somewhere along the way, modern education often snuffs out that flame, replacing it with rote memorization and standardized testing. So here's the big question: how do we redesign education to nurture curiosity rather than suppress it? How do we create systems that honor the natural rhythms of human development instead of rushing children toward arbitrary milestones? These are the conversations we need to have, and they start with challenging assumptions like the one Stifles so eloquently posed, because ultimately, education isn't about cramming facts into young minds. It's about lighting fires, sparking passions, cultivating critical thinking, and empowering individuals to find their unique place in the world. And that begins not with reading, but with wondering.